I'd like to call the council meeting to order. And at this time, we'll ask Councilman Russ Touchberry if he'll have the invocation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag for us.
Please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for your promises, your presence with us, and your protection, especially around those who serve this country at home and abroad. Lord, we ask for your wisdom and guidance as we make decisions for the town this evening. It's in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from previous meetings. The motion on that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve items A, B, C, and D unless there's.
Any amendments to be made?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of 4 previous meetings. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand and voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry. Next thing on the agenda is public comments.
For items on the October 13th agenda, Peter Gorman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Peter Gorman and I live on South Magnolia on the corner of 3rd, a lovely location to watch the annual homecoming parade, which was just this week. I wish to speak about item 8A on your agenda tonight, where you will be considering adopting a resolution supporting the continuation of the 1% transportation sales and use tax in Dorchester County. While I realize that some of you have already supported this initiative, I would like to offer reasons not to officially endorse it. Our county council supports this claim that it is not a new tax. That may be, but it is a vast expansion of an existing sales tax that has produced $125 million since 2004. It would triple that amount to $735 million over the next 15 years. That amounts to about $4,600 in new taxes per person in Dorchester County and about $10,000 per family. What is more concerning is that the ordinance does not specify any paving or road building projects, but may include some like Orangeburg Road, Highway 78, and Glen McConnell Extension. We may never see any of these intended to reduce traffic congestion, but many new roads that would open up new lands for residential development and more traffic congestion. There is no money in this initiative for infrastructure improvements like libraries, parks, public safety, water, and sewer. The county council discontinued its collection of developer impact fees in 2018 because it could not figure out how to spend them for things like reducing traffic congestion. So the cost for infrastructure then gets placed on the backs of the taxpayers in the form of increased property taxes. Why are we asking taxpayers to subsidize residential development? Growth should pay for itself. This comes at a particularly bad time. Seniors on fixed income and low income families are getting hammered by 13% inflation, a 28% increase in gas taxes in the last 5 years. And Somerville has increased its property taxes 11%. and rents have increased 22% in Dorchester County in the last 2 years. And now the county council wants to take another 1% of our family budgets. I am urging voters to reject the continuation of this sales tax until there is an adequate public facilities ordinance in place to collect development impact fees to accompany any new road building in the county. Even Somerville has one. We already pay enough taxes, income taxes, property taxes, personal property taxes, franchise fee taxes, gas taxes, business license taxes, hospitality and accommodation taxes, and now this sales tax. Are we a red state or a blue state? I ask that you consider these concerns when you discuss this in support of the sales tax. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Diane Frankenberger.
Yes, do we get called up twice? Because I wanted to talk about two different things. I wanted to talk about the sales or the tax, and I wanted to talk about the festival, the road closures.
Public comment?
Could I just stand up and talk about both? Okay, all right. I would like to talk about the festival, the Italian festival that we just had. And I thought it was wonderful. I love it that we have a town square, town that supports festivals. There was a problem with perhaps litter and garbage pickup, problem with the permitting. And we had a meeting last night with DREAM, which is our revitalization group. And Steve, who you all know, had a suggestion, which I would like to pass on. And I know that Myra's here. And we all agreed with what he suggested. And he said that that there is a solution, and the solution would be if Parks and Rec and DREAM could work together for the permitting process. And then we would be able to figure out the traffic, the where people park, where they don't park, who picks up the litter, all of those things. I was gonna, I knew exactly what I was gonna say this morning after I had 2 cups of coffee, but I've been at work all day and I'm exhausted. I love it when we have problems because I really enjoy solutions. And problem that we had at the very end of the day, I had a fabric shop and we have something called a shop hop, and you can go to these different shops and you get a little sticker and you get a swatch, and the goal is to go to all 82 shops in North and South Carolina. She said her GPS said she was 8 minutes away and we close at 5. And what were we going to do? So most of us said we couldn't stay tonight. And so I thought, I got a solution. I said, we're going to put a little sticker and we're going to put a little swatch in an envelope and we're going to leave it at Montrose with the hostess, and we're going to call her back and tell her where to pick it up. And within it, we could have offered her a beer too, and I would have done that. Anyway, so a solution with this so-called tax. I know that was explained to us with a group by Jay Byers, who, speaking of coffee, someone accused him of having more than 2 cups, but he was very passionate about this. And it has to do with green space and it has to do with our roads. And neither one of those items are jokes to make fun of or to misrepresent. I know Mr. Gorman, who, by the way, he and I were both born in Boston, Massachusetts in the same hospital. Isn't that right? Peter's left. So we can't even verify that. Golly day. And we both rode a yellow school bus together when we lived in California. So that was our connection. Anyway, so I know that he presented a lot of facts and figures. And if I'd had that information ahead of time, I would have been happy to have addressed all of them. But what I do want to say is I trust our county government and I trust our town government. I trust what Mr. Byers said, what he explained. First, I was afraid because I have a business that the sales tax was going to go up. It's not. It's going to stay at 7%. So one so-called tax goes away, got paid off early. That's a really good thing. And now another one is on top of that in order to help our roads. I was thinking about progress. I know I have 5 minutes, right? Oh, there it is right up there. All right. Anyway, so, nothing stays the same and taxes have gone up. And for anything to go backwards would mean that something really catastrophic would have to happen. It's just a way of life. I was thinking I moved here in 1967 and things were very different in Somerville. There were even dirt roads here. Our schools were always good and this was always a place Someone came in our shop today and said this was such a great town, and I had to agree with her. But anyway, so technology has changed everything, whether it's farming or how we do business, whether our computers, we're not going backwards. And so what I find that we have to do is it has to be responsible growth and responsible spending. And somehow, just like I said, there are problems. It's a great thing that we have problems with all the people that want to move here, for goodness sakes. And so let's figure out how we can work with them and implement the ideas that they do bring. And let's find solutions, find common ground where we can all work together. And it doesn't have to be any name calling, doesn't have to be any disagreements. We can both say, bingo, this is perfect. That's it. Oh, and I'm voting yes for the tax thing. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for the public comment for items on the October 13th agenda. Next, petition by Mary Mead Associates Limited Partnership to annex a portion of Berkeley County TMS number 232-000-22052, total of 7.76 acres, located off of Mary Mead Drive and Farm Springs Road. Currently zoned PDMU, Planned Development Mixed Use in Berkeley County, and will be zoned GB General upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This is in Council District 2. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I would move acceptance of the petition and first reading of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on this petition. And any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry. B,
Petition by Some Bottles LLC to annex TMS numbers 232-000-1024 and 025. 1110 North Main Street and 232-000-1029, 127 Berkeley Circle, 3 parcels totaling 1.388 acres, currently zoned GC General Commercial and RNC Rural and Neighborhood Commercial respectively in Berkeley County, and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This is in Council District 2. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move acceptance of the petition and first reading of the ordinance.
Second.
okay, motion made and second. Any discussion?
Just a question for Ms. Schuler. Oh, there she is. I'm assuming that this is the location for Bottle Superstore. I would just state that my first month on council, 11 and a half years ago, Mayor Collins and I approached the former owners of this property and asked them to annex, and 11 and a half years later it's happened. So ode to perseverance. That something sooner or later they were going to have to.
Well, it looks like we're gonna get it now. Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry. Congratulations.
Petition by Modco LLC to annex TMS number 14511050047 Dewey's Lane, approximately 13 acres, currently zoned TRM Transitional Residential in Dorchester County, and will be zoned NR Neighborhood Residential upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 3. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and unanimously voted down a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for denial at their meeting on October 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we reject the petition.
Second.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. We object this in a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Petition by Mad Dog Development LLC to annex TMS numbers 14506040006 Stallsville Loop and 14506050008 265 Stallsville Loop. Two parcels totaling 1.73 acres currently zoned CG General Commercial in Dorchester County and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 3. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I make a move that we approve this.
Second.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve it in a second. Any discussion?
It's a hard vote, but I think we have enough car washes that I can't come up with a good reason to vote against it, but
Okay,
Mr.
all
Mayor,
in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, this is also close to my district. I think we also have enough car washes, and this is a very busy, these two roads that merge here. And it is so hard to get in and out, going to the businesses right there on Bacon's Bridge right now. I just don't think there's adequate in and out. Getting into this, I just think it's a bad place. I will be voting against it tonight.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would echo at least some of the concerns of Mr. Jackson and Ms. Gardner Schmidt. I am going to vote in favor of the annexation. Primarily because of the Bacon's Bridge Road frontage. That portion of Bacon's Bridge Road, a donut hole, an unincorporated area, just makes no sense as far as efficiency of services. I don't know that's our place to say we've got enough car washes or too many car washes. I do trust the market. I gotta say, if you know me and what I drive, I'm not creating the demand for car washes. And apparently someone is, but I feel like we got enough auto parts stores, car washes and banks, but I keep getting proven wrong. My larger concern, and I just stated it was long before I think any of us got on council to have prevented it. But my larger concern is what's happened to the Stallsville community and particularly the Stallsville United Methodist Church. And this will add to it, but that the Galleria was able to develop the way that it was allowed to develop. Not that you don't develop it, but the plan for development was what it was. It really did harm to that community, and it was unfortunate. And this will add to it, but the harm has been done.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, that since there's a lot of conversation, having it annexed into the town gives us a say as the project is developed. And that, I believe, is important for us, considering what it could be used for if it wasn't in the town. So I let the demands, I understand the concerns, but the demand is there. And at least in this case, we have an opportunity to influence how it is developed.
I kind of agree with Russ. It's there, they want to annex, they may could put it there anyway. I'd just as soon be in town where we would have our controls on how it's developed and what it's going to look like when it gets completed. So, I'm in favor of it coming into the city limits, Anyway, any other discussion? All in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Nay.
Okay, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 14511030110, 160 Community Road, approximately 2.19 acres, and owned by Classic Car Restoration LLC from GB General Business to PL Public Lands. This is in Council District 3.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of this, signify by raising the right hand, vote aye.
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 Aye. Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS numbers 13000000008 and 055, 13000000053.999 and 130000054.999, owned by North Maple MBM LLC, 13000000057 and 058, owned by 7P Partners Incorporated, and a portion of 13000000021, owned by Dust Off 22 LLC, 7 parcels totaling approximately 4.599 acres from GB General Business to PUD Planned Development District. The existing North Maple mixed-use PUD shall be amended to include these parcels for commercial uses, and it's in Council District 1.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
A motion made and seconded, we approve this. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this, signify by raising right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
And Mr. Mayor, before Beth reads C and D, the developer of this would like to put this on the November council meeting instead of tonight. So I would move that we would postpone both C and D until November.
I'll second.
Okay, motion on the floor to postpone C and D to the November meeting. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
On the motion, I think that Kim is asking for is a delay or postponement. in this.
Well, November, that's the motion. Yeah, motion second.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Did I need to read those two, or are we good with that? First reading of an ordinance to sell real property of the town of Somerville known as 333 Old Postern Road, Somerville, South Carolina, being a portion of the same property conveyed to the town of Somerville by deed from Woodlands Village LLC dated February 26, 2020, and recorded in the Register of Deeds office for Dorchester County in Book RB 12369 at page 317 on March 9th, 2020.
Mr. Mayor, I would move first reading of the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
First reading of an ordinance to grant a quitclaim deed of 4,038 square feet, 0.09 acres to CVEA Somerville 3 LLC in the amount of $2,031.09.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. We grant this quick claim deed. Any discussion on this? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
First reading of an ordinance to grant a quitclaim deed of 1,990 square feet, 0.04 acres to Dust Off 22 LLC in the amount of $1,133.73.
Motion,
I'll make a motion for first reading.
Second.
okay, Okay, motion, and a second on this quick claim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this, signify by raising right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, the ayes carry.
First reading of an ordinance to approve a major PUD amendment to the Knightsville Track PUD, AKA Sweetgrass Station, TMS number 14401000004 and 14304000012 to allow the improvements to Orangeburg Road at the site entrance to be delayed until the completion of the 100th dwelling unit. This is in Council District 4. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and motion recommending approval failed on a 3-3 vote at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval with the added requirement that once Phase 1A 64 units is complete, the project cannot move forward without the DOT encroachment permit for the improvements on Orangeburg Road at their meeting on October 10th.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, this is in my district and I'm no longer on the planning committee, so I tried to follow along a little bit and probably didn't grasp all of it. If Jesse, if Ms. Schuler could perhaps provide us with the rationale for the delay. I understand that the developer has run into some kind of unexpected obstacles that the state government may have put on them, but as a general rule, I want people to make agreements with us to live up to their agreements. So, Ms. Schuler, can you help me with this?
I can try. So a couple reasons for the delay. The first, they did have to do a flood study that took longer than they anticipated and is still actually going through the process. And they also, there was an additional development that we approved to the south, just to the south of this development, that when that came online and was submitted to DOT for their plans for improvements to Orangeburg, DOT then decided that that whole section from Six Oaks, which is, you can kind of barely see it on the map, O'Malley Drive there, all the way up to this site entrance needed to go ahead and all be 3-laned, which was not what was initially anticipated with this development. So they are having to go back and change their plans for the road design for the improvements. So that's part of the reasoning. Also, the original traffic study for this development looked at it as a whole. So all 300 units. And so when they initially requested this, we required them to go back and do a traffic study for just the first phase, which is actually 116 units. And that traffic study showed that the improvements would not be required with just that first phase done.
So if DOT, and do I understand that I think there are two developers of this Knightsville PUD, and one of them is also the developer of Six Oaks, is that correct?
Yes, sir. So Levi Grantham is with Sweetgrass Station, the development just to the south, which was initially called the Shobe Track, and Six Oaks are the same developer. So it's two separate developers for 3 separate projects.
The improvements that we were requiring were turn lanes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And now DOT is requiring it to be 3 lanes. Is that?
Yes, sir. Based on the 3 projects that are now in play, they want to 3-lane the entire section.
Will there also be dedicated turn lanes in and out of the Knightsville PUD track?
In and out of, like at their entrance
Yeah.
onto Orangeburg?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And that is required at a different
By
time.
us.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The motion you made, was that to echo the planning and development committee motion?
That's the motion I seconded.
No, there's 64 as amended in committee. Thank you.
Yes, it's both. It's, they don't have to make the improvements until the 100th unit, but they have to have the encroachment permit at the end of phase 1A.
Two.
Okay.
So we've got a motion and a second. If there's any more discussion.
You got anything else? Okay, everybody understand what we're doing with this?
I feel like I've confused everybody enough for now.
Yeah. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The ayes carry.
First reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13701060001, 333 Old Postern Road, approximately 1.16 acres and owned by the town of Somerville from PUD Plan Development District to GR2 General Residential, 2 units per acre. This is in Council District 2. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I would move first reading of the ordinance.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
First reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13700000002 on Old Postern Road and West Richardson Avenue and Parsons Road, approximately 29.51 acres and owned by the town of Somerville from PUD Plan Development District to PL Public Lands. This is in Council District 2. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 19th. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 10th.
Move we approve first reading.
I'll second.
Okay, motion, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Under miscellaneous, consideration of adopting a resolution supporting the continuation of the 1% countywide transportation sales and use tax in Dorchester County.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll probably vote against this. Recently had a tax increase in the town, county, and he lives in an inflationary era right now. And we've got a lot of folks that have stuff on the and all everything's going up, getting higher and higher and higher. You don't know if it's going to end. I think the tax has done some good in the past, but right now I just think it's not a good time to do. It's not a good time to do this, so I'll probably vote against it.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, thought a little bit about this. What I'm going to do in the polls in November and about this vote. And I've decided not to vote tonight, but I'm not really, don't want anybody to perceive that as me copping out in any way. I don't like these non-binding resolutions. I've never liked them. We created a huge furor about 10 years ago, and we had a non-binding resolution about clear cutting I-26. I think we didn't have any say in that. We didn't have anything to do with it whatsoever. It was miles and miles and miles out of town limits. That's how we passed it, and that's how Mayor Collins got the nickname Chainsaw Bill. I just, I don't like these non-binding resolutions, as a matter of principle. I particularly don't like this one. I don't think that it's our job as elected officials to try to tell our citizens how to vote. So I'm not voting, but I will tell you, with some reservations, with some significant reservations, I will vote for this in the polls in November. That's just my calculus that it's worth doing, continuing this penny tax. I have some of the very same reservations that Mr. Gorman shared before I got here. But I was listening. There's no guarantee that any of these roads will be built. Unlike the current penny, they were obligated to finish the roads. We had some folks at the last minute that wanted to switch up on us and not fund the Berlin G. Myers, but they couldn't do that because the 2004 referendum tied their hands. I wish this referendum tied the hands of county council. They call it flexibility. I call it something else. So I'm concerned about that, but I am going to vote for it in the polls in November. And if it does pass, we have just recently released or issued about $20 million in bonds of 12 million of which to complete North Maple. And since if this passes, North Maple's on this list. So if this passes in November, I'll be coming to this council to make a motion to pay that $20 million back immediately and force the county to do North Maple. So we'll at least know that they're doing one thing on the list. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I feel compelled to share some of my thoughts on the referendum and a consideration of adopting a resolution in support of it. One of the things I hear the most from my constituents prior to the tennis and pickleball discussion, really taking number one out of anything that I've heard, is flooding and traffic. And growth is happening around us at a pace that's very difficult to control. And it's not just in the town limits, but it's all around us. And, Councilman Brown referenced the tax increase. Well, part of the reason for that is because we have so many needs within our town and we don't have enough economic development or a diversified tax base to help reduce the burden from our citizens and put it on some of the economic development commercial taxes that could be much more beneficial to us. The referendum is a way for us to attract businesses who can help reduce the pressure on our citizens. It's certainly a quality of life issue to have reduced traffic, but also the opportunity to preserve green space where things are logical. We have such an awesome community in Somerville. We have some areas that we really need to protect and preserve. Some natural areas along the Ashley come to mind, and this referendum will give us the opportunity to do that. I believe it would give us also a way to compete within our community, or the Tri-County region compete for state dollars. Right now, Berkeley County has a transportation sales tax that is going to be continued very likely. Charleston County has one as well. And what that does is that provides them the opportunity to get state and federal dollars. That's other people's money. That's not our taxpayer money, but it's the federal taxpayer or the state taxpayer money. If we don't have our own money to put up for that, we're going to lose that opportunity to really exponentially grow the impact that this could have. I'm very happy that the sales tax timeframe has been reduced from 25 years to 15 years. I think that gives us an opportunity to make different decisions. I understand the concerns of Councilman McIntosh on the flexibility by not having project requirements, but growth is happening very dynamically in our region. And this 15-year sales tax, if it were just a list of projects, maybe a project in the 15th year doesn't meet the needs and isn't the best use of those funds, and we would still have to fulfill that obligation. This flexibility gives us the opportunity to meet the needs of the time and prioritize those and shift those priorities based on where growth is or where economic development opportunities are. So I'm very impressed with how council and all the folks who have participated from the Chamber of Commerce, from other local leaders. I'm very impressed with how they've structured this. I think it's very forward thinking, and I will be supporting it.
I agree with you, Russ, 100%. I've listened to the group that's planned this penny, you know, and it's just going to continue on of the penny that we already got. So it's not an increase. I disagree with Mr. Gorman. You know, he went into it far, you know, comparing it to other taxes and all that kind of stuff. Those things are there. We did have to raise taxes. It costs to run government. Mr. Gorman ought to run for council and sit up here and see what it does cost to run and see how he can do away with those taxes he's talking about and still provide the public safety that we have to provide. Those are the two biggest things in our budget. And I don't know whether he reads the paper, but our police department is underfunded because not because we want to defund them like the federal government's talking about, but we don't have enough money to fund them. And we got shootings going on in Somerville. Thank God, not like North Charleston. But our police officers are risking their lives like you wouldn't believe. And I know you must have seen the fire that our fire department had down on Trolley Road. There was a conflagration. I mean, it was a terrible fire. We lost 2 lives in there. We lost a life not more than a month earlier. Stuff's happening in Somerville that didn't happen in my 25 years as fire chief, and our public safety departments, our trash department. I don't know whether y'all realize that the trash on the side of the road right now was caused from the storm that did not really hit us because our trash department's not big enough to get around and get it. So like my trash, for an example, is they pick it up every Thursday. That storm was how long ago? They hadn't got there yet because it's not big enough. The department's not big enough. We don't have enough money where they can get around that quick. So when you look at the little bit of money we get, which is not a little bit, it's a ton of money, but we got to have the money to run this town. And my biggest complaints too, since I've been mayor, which is 3 years almost, is exactly what Russ Touchberry just touched on, is traffic and flooding. Now, last night's rain, I got 3 inches of water in my garage this morning. And I didn't get any rain, just a little bit of rain from Ian when he came through the other day. But this morning, because of that rain, I don't know how much we got, but we got enough to put three inches of rain in my garage. So who did I call? Me. And I squeegeed it out the garage. But when other people get water in their garage, they call the town. And we try to help them out. But that cost us money, and we don't have the money in our stormwater department to go take care of these things. We're trying to take care of our ditches, and we did a pretty good job because we had people actually bragging on our stormwater department after that storm. And so we made some headway, but we gotta do more. And we raised our taxes to try to be able to do more because we're running so far behind. Now, this penny tax is for traffic only. It's for roads. And I know some of y'all have ridden by the Parkway where the Parkway's got to Carolina Avenue and see that large cleared area, because I've gotten, I don't know how many complaints about the trees that got cut. Somerville's known for its trees. Those trees had to be cut for that road to come through. There's an on-ramp and an off-ramp on both sides of that Carolina Avenue that have to be put there. That requires trees to be cut. I hate to see the trees cut, but I'm glad to see the highway. We fought when I first got elected for 2.5 to 3 years to get a permit to put that parkway in. And it's gonna help. But by the time they get it built, we'll need another parkway somewhere. We need it now. It took me almost 2.5 hours to get from my house to MUSC yesterday morning for a doctor's appointment. And I know that's not our responsibility, that's I-26. But in Somerville, to leave my house by Somerville Baptist Church to get to Lowe's, it's almost 30 minutes. So everywhere you drive around town, from my house to Publix out in Niceville, it takes almost 30 minutes, depending on what time of day you go. So this 1 cent tax is probably one of the smartest things that we've ever done. And I hate to see Bill backing out on not voting for it, supporting it at our meeting. I promised my county council friends that I would vote for this resolution. And I'm going to vote for it because that's how strongly I agree with what we're doing with this thing. Now, Bill said he's going to vote for it, but he's not going to support this resolution. Well, I don't know what the hell the difference is. You know, if you go vote for it in November, support your resolution. Let the people know in Somerville that you're for it. You're not telling them to vote for it. You're just voting for a resolution to let them know that you're going to vote for it. Now, he's announced he's going to vote for it, but he's not going to vote for a resolution. I don't understand that. But that's the way the ball bounces. You know, I'm pretty honest with everybody. You know, but anyway, we need this resolution. I totally disagree with Mr. Gorman. He's rattling off every tax he pays and comparing it to this 1 penny road tax. I agree with what Russ said about naming the roads. We did that wrong when we did that first. I worked hard on that other penny road tax. Worked real hard on it. But we made a mistake when we named the roads we were going to do. Because we named roads in the upper part of the county that were dirt roads that probably didn't need paving that we could have used down here on some of the heavy traffic. They don't have heavy traffic around St. George. But to try to equal the thing out county, you know, it's kind of like years ago when we got our first ambulance in Dorchester County. We got it down here, but they had to get an ambulance up there. We had 100 wrecks down here. They might have had 10 up there. So everything, we got a Jaws of Life down here. They got one up there. You know, and so it's not right how sometimes things get done here in our county. But anyway, that's just the things that happen. But this is one of the most important things I've seen us vote on yet, this 1 penny tax for roads. Because people are going to keep complaining about traffic. And this penny will do something about traffic. I'm going to be dead and gone, but this will continue on. And it will help us with traffic because, you know, everybody says, well, you ought to cut off the people coming. You ain't going to cut the people off coming. They're going to keep on coming. We can put a moratorium on building in Somerville, but if the county don't put one on and Berkeley County don't put one on and Charleston County don't put one on and North Charleston and every God's place else in the world, they're going to keep coming because there's something about this area that they love. So it's going to keep growing. You know, it's not the town of Somerville's fault that we're growing. It's it's South Carolina, it's North Carolina, Georgia. I mean, it's the whole southeastern coast is growing like the devil, been growing. And we're not going to stop it. So we got to get prepared for it. This is groundbreaking right here, what we're doing here. 20 years from now, there's no telling what we'll be doing. But it's going to cost to live here. No matter what. We can't treat it like, well, we got these poor people over here that can't afford it. Well, we got to help them afford it. We got to build affordable housing. We got a whole lot that we behind on. We're not just behind on roads, we behind on all kind of stuff. And anyway, I've said enough. I've said too much. But anyway, I'm for this resolution 100%. My heart's in it. I think it's the best thing we can do, and then maybe people will stop calling about the traffic. We can start doing something about it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may be heard, I'm against voting for any non-binding resolutions on anything. I think we're here to make decisions that affect the town and not give advice about issues outside of our purview. Having said that, I am going to support this in November. I think it's worth continuing this penny tax. But my concern, to be very clear, the example you gave, Mr. Mayor, of Burlingame Myers Parkway really is what fuels my concern about this, the way this particular ordinance is referendum has been drafted, and apparently it's been drafted this way deliberately. But I thought two things. I couldn't have been more proud of you, Mr. Mayor, and people in Town Hall to work with you and some of the folks in the community. I'll name a couple names: Gary Brewer Jr. and Converse Chellis, Treasurer Converse Chellis, that worked very hard to get that permit and to get Senator Graham on board. And the political force that I saw in extracting a permit out of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that did not want to permit that project for any reason in any way. It wasn't science, it was pure politics. And you, Mr. Mayor, with Treasurer Chellis and certainly Senator Graham got that permit. But as we were getting that permit in hand, some folks associated with the county tried to take the funding away, the funding that was approved by this 2004 vote on this, the existing penny. And one of my proudest moments on council was when the seven of us, it was Councilman Bailey at the time, I believe, Councilman Touchberry, but the seven of us on this dais went in en masse to a meeting of the Dorchester County Transportation Authority to try to stop the steal, to try to stop them from taking money from the Burlingame Myers Parkway. And I think that show of force was helpful. But what also was helpful is it would have been illegal if they had done it because of the wording of the 2004 referendum. It troubles me that the wording of the 2022 referendum is not similar. That's all.
Thank you, Bill. They did do that.
I know they did. I watched.
Yeah,
They tried.
they tried, right.
And they didn't, one more thing, they didn't do it because at the end of 23 years, it wasn't a need. They did it for purely political reasons. And the decision in year 14 and 15 or 13 and 14 and 15 to fund this or fund that, unfortunately, will not be the decision of this body. But anyway, thank you for indulging.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, ayes carried. Thank you.
Discussion of road closures and parking during permitted special events.
Say that again, Beth, please.
Discussion of road closures and parking during permitted special events.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to make any motion, but I do want to say I received a great deal of feedback from business owners in the community regarding this topic here. And I'm very interested in us working with our local business community on a solution that hopefully can please and work well together with all parties involved.
yeah, me too.
Mr. Mayor, all I really have to say about this is that I have also, we've all, I think, heard from different shop owners and merchants in town, particularly about a recent event. I believe it would have had to have been on Saturday. And I don't want to I don't want us to single out one event over another event, but there was something that happened. And I assume they were both permitted events and they were both permitted by us. And I think perhaps in the future, we can try to avoid at least some of what happened on Saturday. If I understand it correctly, you know, when the farmer's market, which I assume is a permitted event, is happening on a Saturday morning until 1 p.m., one end of the garage is closed, probably necessarily. And this event that had some overlapping time, at least an hour or two of overlapping time, that the permit for that event that I think was along Little Main and West Richardson allowed for the closing of the other entrance to the garage. That should not have happened. And that is a breakdown by town government that happened. I think when people realize the problems that both government, our public safety department, but also the sponsors of this event, not the farmer's market, but the other event, attempted to rectify the situation. I don't think anybody was ignoring it. It was just probably too late to completely reverse what had happened. But obviously having both entrances to the farmer's market, both entrances to the parking garage was something that we should have foreseen and should have prevented from happening.
I agree, and I think Lisa, you pretty well got that squared away, right?
Yes,
With Amy, and I don't believe that'll ever happen again. Nobody, I don't think, knew it was even going on until it happened. And I think we can take care of that. Amy and Doug can work that out. And that shouldn't have happened. And on the other end, we had a fight down there in Stevie Hutchinson's parking lot with two ladies. And I don't really know what Stevie Hutchinson called me from Florida. And yesterday or day before yesterday, and he said they trashed his parking lot. This is the antique car show people. And one lady was going into the chiropractor's office and they got in a fight over a parking place. And the other lady was involved with the car show. This is what came to me. And so she went into the chiropractor's office to get this lady who beat her to the parking place. And they went outside and got into a little confrontation. I heard it was a fight. But anyway, it ended, and I hadn't heard anything since then about it. And supposedly the car show lady said, this is our parking lot for the day. Now that's Stevie Hutchinson's parking lot. And he said he didn't tell anybody they could use that parking lot other than the customers or the people that rent those spaces from him. So, you know, that's not good if somebody else told them they could use that parking lot. But that won't happen again either. But anyway, that wasn't good. Also, he said that they trashed that area of town. In other words, they didn't clean up. Now in the contract, you know, in our contract to whoever uses it, it's very clear in there that that person has to furnish the cans and clean up. You know, but it's kind of vague, Lisa said, how that thing reads. So I suggested to her today that we ought to change that. And her and Amy talked about this, that our people ought to be doing the cleanup and they ought to be paying us, just like the Flowertown Festival. Because during the Flowertown Festival, it stays clean. And that's because our people do it. And we just need to charge people that are having these events and let our people clean up and pay our people. And that way it'll stay clean, you know. But anyway, Lisa's working with Amy on those kind of things. So I think we'll get them worked out. Because, you know, out of all the things that we've had in that park, and I know this in the last 3 years since I've been mayor, this is the first time we've had that I've had any complaints. So we've done pretty good. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that? If you heard anything? Doug, you heard anything other than that? Can you hear me back there? Yeah, okay. Other than that, good job. Big crowd downtown. I know Saturday, because I went downtown Saturday. I just didn't walk around. Okay, Beth.
Consideration of adding a three-way stop sign on Driver Avenue at Six Iron. The Public Works and Committee on Water Supply voted to move this item to full council with a recommendation for approval at the meeting on October tenth.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we add a three-way stop sign on Driver Avenue at Six Iron.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor. Okay, motion on the floor to put a three-way stop sign at Drive Avenue at Six Iron and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of this signify by raising the right hand, voting aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried. And what's this next thing, Beth? No, what was the public works?
Right, for public comment, first we have Bill Ennis.
Oh, yeah, I see what it is.
Good evening. A little bit of a lighter topic, which is tennis. I'm Bill Ennis, President of the Board of the Low Country Tennis Association, which is responsible for the organization and the administration of tennis in the Low Country. And we're a member of the USTA, and we are all non-compensated volunteers in terms of what we do. Just like the mayor was saying, the LCTA has seen absolutely explosive growth in our active player numbers over the last several years. Over 5 years, the LCTA has gone from the 12th largest tennis league in the United States to this year we're the 3rd largest tennis organization in the United States. The only ones that are bigger than us right now are Atlanta and Orlando. So in terms of the number of people that we have actively playing tennis in the LCTA in the Low Country, we're bigger than Houston, we're bigger than Miami, we're bigger than Orange County, we're bigger than the eastern side of Massachusetts, and I could go on and on. 2022, this year, has been historic for us. We grew from 4,500 active players, 4,500 in 2021 to over 5,000 players in the spring of this year, and we added over 80 teams. I have a deck for you to look at that I left before the meeting, but Somerville has been part of this growth with 300 active players, again, in the town of Somerville. Example, Mount Pleasant is our largest, 1,400 players. The demand is still growing and we'll continue to break records. We'll break records in the fall of this year for our league, and we'll break records again in the spring of 2023. Along with that, and this is beyond recent comments, Somerville has had very, very strong growth. In 2018, you had 139 active players, 139. 2019, it jumps to 256. One of the biggest percentage growth levels I've seen. And then in 2021, 300 players. Next year, 330, 340 players. I mean, you've done a double. You're up by 100% in terms of the active players in Somerville. And the reason that Somerville is at full capacity is that the number of public courts available is limited. So there's no place to play. So simply, the answer to the question is, what do you do? Somerville has 60,000 residents, 10 public tennis courts. So extremely low citizens to court ratio at one court per 6,000 residents. So the LCTA, in working with you, we need to do a better job. I need to do a better job at working with the town council, working with the recreation department to create capacity for the long term for the growth that you're going to experience. And we can help financially as well. And we haven't had that discussion in the past. But tonight, we shouldn't be talking about taking courts away from any sport, especially if the voice is just louder than ours for the time being. And the point is that tennis players pay a fee in Somerville. They pay a fee both to the town of Somerville and they pay a fee to us to play active tennis. The LCTA, we admire pickleball. I play pickleball. It's a great sport, but we love tennis and it promotes longevity, health, fellowship, long-term friendships. It's a transformational sport. And with capacity, if you grow capacity, that helps tax revenues, home prices, etc. So let us work with you on expanding tennis and pickleball facilities in Somerville, not decreasing them. So we appreciate your service. We appreciate and admire what you do, the decisions that you have to make. I've seen it tonight. We thank you for your interest. And I do also want to say thank you to Amy, who does a great job with limited resources as the head of recreation. You have a very good high talent there. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I appreciate your comments. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee. Bob Jackson there as the chair.
Yes,
You said one thing that caught my attention. You said you could help us financially.
yes.
Building places to play tennis and that sort of thing. And I think that's very important because, you know, the town operates off of taxes. And we are limited as to the taxes that we can pull in, even for recreation or whatever. So I think it needs to be an approach from organizations like yours. Exactly what you said, that you're willing to work with us. It's a great sport.
Yeah,
I play myself and I can find somebody I can beat. So I haven't been able to do that lately, but I appreciate your comments. Be interested to talk to you about how you think you can help us.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick aside. I mean, I'll admit it. You know, Somerville has not been at the top of our priority list, and it should be. We are working with Mount Pleasant. I was in front of the town council and one of the other people that's going to speak tonight. They're at capacity too. I mean, they're turning away 100 people a season. Literally, someone comes up and says, I want to play tennis. Can I sign up? No. And you're going to come up against that as well. So we got $3.5 million added into the November referendum, which is a property tax millage, to build $50 million of recreational facilities and put it in a central park. Will also include a significant amount of tennis courts and a significant amount of pickleball courts. And that's what they need. And that's a 50-50 on the referendum, whether it's going to pass or not. But we have given hundreds and hundreds of thousands to courts in and around the Low Country area to improve. I just talked to Amy about $5,000, which we need a lot more than that for Somerville, but to help continue to refurbish the courts. But we are more than happy at this point, especially within my administration of the LCTA, to work closely with you in recreation to do whatever we can to offer from the USTA on down to the LCTA to help you grow out your capacity, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what the league's supposed to do. And we all have trouble winning games sometimes.
Well, I appreciate you coming here and talking to us. It's some good information.
Thank you.
Forward to trying to work with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Laurel Morris.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you again. We were here in March of 2021, asking for your help, advocating for the Doty tennis courts. We needed new lighting and resurfacing. We got the lights. Thank you very much. We're told that resurfacing has finally been approved and is next. So again, thank you. But we're back regarding the potential loss of our Laurel tennis courts to the anonymous pickleball donor. And even losing one court, ladies and gentlemen, is a step back. The pickleball representative that came before you a couple of weeks ago said, quote, "There's rising popularity of pickleball over tennis, and demand for tennis facilities is minimal, and tennis courts at Doty go unused." Yikes, I'm not really sure why this pickleballer feels the need to marginalize tennis to get what he wants, and I'm not sure where he got his information. Both sports are equally important, and we certainly don't need to support one sport at the expense of another. That's kind of silly. You heard Mr. Innes. The local tennis stats speak for themselves, and nationally, over the past 3 years, tennis and pickleball experienced almost identical booms in participation. It's what kept us all sane during the pandemic. But the truth is, currently, there are 21 million people who play tennis in the US, compared to just 5 million pickleballers. That's over a 4-to-1 ratio. Tennis isn't going anywhere. It's been around for a century. Demand for tennis facilities is alive and strong. Pickleball's popularity is growing, but most assuredly not over tennis. And regarding the observation by the pickleballer that Doty courts go unused, well, sure, you'll see Doty courts empty sometimes, but guess what? The pickleball courts are empty sometimes too. I played a match at Doty last night. All tennis courts were full. One pickleball court was in use the whole night. And last Sunday, same thing. I was playing a match at Doty. All tennis courts were full, and not a soul was playing pickleball on the 2 courts all afternoon. So that argument has no merit. At night, and depending on league play, there is a wait to get on the tennis courts. I met 2 nice gentlemen from Brazil who recently moved here, waiting on tennis courts. I met another couple who just moved here from Atlanta, waiting on tennis courts. Confirmation, our population has exploded, and with it, we have new pickleball and tennis players alike. But bottom line, we cannot sacrifice one sport for the other. We both want the same thing. We desperately need more pickleball and tennis courts. Those Laurel courts have admittedly been neglected and ignored. They're in sad shape, but they are used. We want to see Laurel courts get some love. Laurel desperately needs to get resurfaced, needs new lights. For tennis, not for pickleball, we need both courts because Laurel is considered the spillover courts for Doty. When Doty is full, players go to Azalea or Laurel to play. If we lose Laurel, then we'll see more players sitting around Doty, waiting on courts. We only have 10 public courts in Somerville, 10, that's it. And 2 of those courts are used for instruction on a daily basis. So essentially 8 courts available for hundreds of players. There are viable alternatives for building pickleball courts elsewhere, as presented to you by Mr. Eric Epstein a couple of weeks ago. Local tennis pro and player Ben Huff has also presented you options. So again, we ask you to consider our request. Let's not add one sport at the expense of another. Leave Laurel as tennis courts, and please, let's begin the process of adding new courts to Somerville, pickleball and tennis. Thank you.
I can't read the last name on the next one, but the first name is April.
Good evening. My name is April Gift, just like in the gift of tennis. I work for the United States Tennis Association in South Carolina, and I also am the coordinator for junior team tennis in the Low Country. I'm here to talk about junior team tennis. So I'm the junior part of this whole tennis program. Just to give you an idea of what junior team tennis is, it's a league for kids, just like adults. So you've got your kid, you got your adults playing, and now you have your juniors playing. We offer orange ball at 10U. We offer green dot at 12U. And then we offer the yellow ball for 14 and 18U. So that's the most common ball. This helps kids to learn how to play tennis. What we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity to learn how to play. We're giving them a smaller court to play. And you have been instrumental in giving that to these kids since 2014. And that's around the time that I came here. You have about 20 to 30 kids playing a season. I know it's a small portion, but they've been playing since 2014. And a lot of times we're fighting for courts on a Sunday afternoon just to play junior team tennis. And a lot of times when I'm up here and I get to observe what's going on at the courts, there hasn't been a time where someone hasn't come up and asked if they could use the courts at Doty because your Azalea and your Laurel courts are already being used. So they're getting good use. And a lot of your teams are having the opportunity to go on like adults. They get to go on to state playoffs and they get to go on to sectional playoffs. So it's giving them an opportunity to advance and work on their game. And this sport right here is a great pathway for kids to learn how to play league play as adults. It's a sport of a lifetime. And it also gives them an opportunity to even play at high school. And it also gives them an opportunity to play tournaments. So what I'd like to ask, or at least let you know, is there a few things about tennis that I'm not sure you know about tennis and pickleball. And believe me, I love pickleball. I don't play it as much as I'd like, but I do like it. First of all, do you know that you cannot play on a tennis court that has pickleball lines for league play, for tournaments, and also for junior team tennis? That's huge. That's not my rule. I don't like it. I work for the United States Tennis Association, but I have to go with that. But I do feel that we have some opportunities for some solutions here. One thing that I would like to know is for the Somerville high school courts, could we use schools to get more play? And then the other thing that I would ask also is for tennis players, we have to pay memberships to play on courts. I don't understand why the voice is so loud for pickleball. And believe me, I love the sport too, but they don't pay a membership. So please, if you get an opportunity, I would love for you to go out and look at our courts at Doty Park. And I would ask you, don't go out in the middle of the afternoon because no one's going to be out there playing pickleball or tennis. But if you go there on a weekend or an evening, you're going to see a lot of play. And I hope that we can find a solution. USTA is here to help. And there's ways that we can help you also. We have a free advisory service that could help you in building more courts or even resurfacing. I thank you for your time and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bessie Simmons.
My name is Betsy Simmons. I live on Parkwood Drive, and I'm asking that you consider putting a three-way stop at Germantown Road and Parkwood Drive. As if you're coming out of Germantown Road, by the time you turn left, a car is coming from Central Avenue and they have a speed. By the time you get straight and go, they're right on your bumper. And a speed sign that used to be on Parkwood Drive, it was moved and it wasn't placed back. The cars be coming around. If I'm turning in my yard, I break my speed. As I'm turning in my yard, they are blowing for me to speed up. And one day, this yellow lines were there. The car went around me on the yellow lines to go around, and happened so the car that was coming, it wasn't enough for him to hit, and they have speed. I came before with the speed that was on it, but the four-way stop had really helped. The big trucks don't go through as much as they used to. But I'm asking you to please consider those two things I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betsy.
Pastor Simmons.
Good evening, good evening. Good evening to everyone. Mayor, City Council, I'm Pastor Edward Simmons, pastor of Central Missionary Baptist Church, a little small church on the side of the road, not too far from here. Amen. Mayor, this your 3 years. I'm going on 4 years, amen, as the pastor there.
Good.
And we have a problem with our parking lot, and I need your help. Our parking lot is grassy, when it rains, it's muddy and wet. And I'm in a church full of women. I'm hearing, we got to get that parking lot paved, amen. It's really messy, it's nasty, and we need your help. We started the project in 2019, and we were told that we need to get an engineer, and we have an engineer, Earth Source is working with us, and they'll be turning in our parking lot proposal plan to you if it's not here yet. And we ask that you please consider us to get that parking lot paved. The church has been around for 115 years, transforming lives, changing people. And when we get that parking lot, I'm going to invite all the police officers to come out there so we can celebrate our young boys can have a relationship with the officers. So I'm looking forward to that. One other thing, adjacent to 123 Richmond Street is Rutherford Street. And that street, when it rains, it's flooded. So my members can't even cross the road. They got to pull their, hands up. They got to jump over over puddles. And that's a problem that Redford Street, when it rains, it floods the whole street. And we ask that you talk with Russ Touchberry several times, and thank you for working with me. If you can come one day, I'll love to have you there. I have some of our officers here, our deacons, and trustees here with me. They can tell you when I came to Central, I had black hair. Now I got a little gray hair coming because I got to get that parking lot fixed with the old ladies. Amen. So we actually please consider us when that proposal come through. Consider this small church right around the corner, one who is a beacon of light, who helping people, making a difference in the community. If you can do that with us, and we ask for your prayer, all things are possible with God. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bill Nyson.
Mayor, Councilman, I'm here to, I'm a new resident pretty much to Somerville. And I guess I'm here to come out of the closet. I've talked to Amy a couple of times, and I am the guy that my wife and I are the ones that have offered the donation for the pickleball courts. And in coming here, we do regular walks around the neighborhood, and we walk by the Laurel Street tennis facility park there. And very rarely have we ever seen a tennis player out on Laurel Street. And so the bright idea came to me, hey, I've been lucky and I've been pretty lucky in life. And I thought, I don't have the room in my backyard. Well, actually Russ Touchberry's backyard. I live in Russ's backyard and over on President Circle. And I thought, well, maybe it'd be a great thing to donate some funds to build more pickleball facilities. Actually, I'm a member of a group here in Somerville, and it's got an application where you can sign up to play in games and stuff and go over to the facility that there is now. And we meet people there regularly in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon and play pickleball there. But it seemed like the courts there at Laurel Street were in bad shape. And I thought maybe they'd like to turn those into pickleball courts. I mean, you talk about how many tennis courts you have per 1,000 people. And I think you said one for every 6,000 people. Well, you've got 2 tennis courts for the whole town, or 2 pickleball courts for the whole town. And pickleball is a growing sport. I mean, we also have homes out west in Palm Springs. Palm Springs is a big tennis community, but at the club that we belong at and in the city there, they're taking out tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts because of the popularity and the sociability of the game. it brings people a lot closer together. It's not quite as hard to play as tennis, not quite as physically demanding. And for the town of Somerville, it seems like it would fit the town a little bit better. I don't know, but I didn't mean to cause a commotion. I understand you've had such a big outcry of pickleballers and tennis people saying, you know, don't take the tennis away, don't to add to pickleball, but it's just a sincere desire that we wanted to give to the town. I love Somerville. I think it's got great character, great people here. It's got a great vibe to it. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be becoming more and more popular. And you know, the main thing is the only caveat that I've had with Amy, and I think I've told her a couple of times, if we're going to do it, I'd like to do it right. You know, I'd like to make a sizable enough donation to make it a nice facility so that it really is a place that people can gather and have a lot of fun. And so in your considerations, you know, I'd like to do it that way. If you consider it, I'd like to at least have 4 courts, make it a nice facility where we can have a number of groups playing and gather there. And anyway, I appreciate your consideration and hope you guys can come to some kind of agreement in the community. I know it's a hard decision with everybody's self-interest on this. So anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gregory Reed.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Gregory Reed. I am the vice chair of the trustee at Central Missionary Baptist Church. I first got to apologize for my speech. I had oral surgery today. But I'm here with my pastor, asking you guys to please consider us on my parking lot. Amen.
Lewis Fowler.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I am a deacon at Central Missionary Baptist Church. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Somerville. Central Missionary Baptist Church, as Pastor Simmons has said, is 115 years old. We live in a community, a very small community surrounded by many, many streets. We're right down from the original town hall, right off Carolina there. And as Pastor Simmons enumerated, our church has been dirt and leaves and everything else for the last 115 years. We're trying to move into the 21st century. As he also reiterated that the Rutherford Street, the street that we cross to get into the church is due to ponding every time it rains, particularly if you go there right now, it's ponding on that road. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic in the area, and we also have a lot of elderly people, and myself, and I don't jump as well as I used to, and I don't play basketball. However, the church itself has been moving, following all the ordinances and the laws to try to get our parking lot paved. We're a small church, that's true, but then again, we follow the law. But for the community itself, we also have offered, if you look where the church is, it's sort of a gathering place. People park there to go across the street to go to some of the football games. But the church itself needs to move forward. And with the number, not just because of the elderly people there, even with the young people and the number of people coming into the town of Somerville, it offers an aesthetic upgrade to that community. It also helps those that are coming and walking their children And as a matter of fact, we got more dogs in the area now than we have people. However, we do need to move forward with our parking lot. And the dilemma that we face is as the longer we go, the more it's gonna cost us. That's true. With all the paving going on, particularly with the town right now, paving a number of our streets, including, as Ms. Simmons said, Parkwood Drive just got paved. We want to move into the 21st century and be a welcoming location, not only for our own parishioners, but also for the town of Somerville. We do believe that it adds to the aesthetics of the town and as an attraction, and it helps our citizens also. Not only that, being a lifelong member of Central Missionary Baptist Church with a number of people coming in from North Charleston and every place else, they're not used to just walking all on grass. I don't wear high heel shoes, but I do know that some of the young ladies in our church, when they get those nice 8-inch heels into the dirt, it does not bode very well. So jumping across ponding is one thing, but having to get out of your car in mud is another thing. So we implore and ask the mayor and the town council, when our petition comes before you, please consider Central Missionary Baptist Church. Help us help our people move forward in this time. And we will be a benefit spiritually to the community and aesthetic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Hester Young.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dr. Hester Young, and I'm a citizen of Somerville, South Carolina. My husband, James Young, and I have been in this area for over 30 years, and he has been in this area for 40 years, but I mean, in Somerville, and I'm from this area. I am a concerned citizen, primarily. Secondly, I'm a candidate of DD2 school district. On one hand, my heart is heavy tonight. On the other hand, I have a solution. So I'm going to present those to you tonight. Currently, DD2 is number 12 in the state. You got that? Number 12 in the state. And it seems like we keep doing the same things over and over again to get board candidates for our precious commodity, doing the same thing over and over again. We have board members that have been on the board for 20 years or more or less, but for decades. And that's absolutely unacceptable for DD2 to be number 12. I remember when when people in my community used to move to Dorchester County just to attend the school. But this is a dirty little secret. We're number 12, do the research. Our present matrix, political matrix on our school board is comprised of one political party. And I believe that the board should reflect the community in which it serves. We have over 95,000 voting citizens, not counting the over 25,000 students in our district. And the political matrix and the board, and we are nonpartisan. We're supposed to be nonpartisan, does not reflect the community. It is devised to discourage viable candidates, influence endorsements, as we have seen this past couple of weeks. Our local chapter, South Carolina Education Society, of which I'm a paying member of the state, but our local does not reflect the values of our state, South Carolina Education Association. They've endorsed three candidates that fall into this matrix. The same mindset that does not represent every child in DD2. And I'm heartbroken because of that. I got a rejection email, but my name wasn't on the email from this local organization. I got copies of confidential rejection letters from people in the upstate. I don't know how many, because I quit reading. That is cruel and an unusual punishment. And when I reached out to that organization, they told me that I was rejected. The good part is coming. We keep doing the same things and we keep getting the same results. It cannot be acceptable for the citizens in this county. The South Carolina Board of Education has a profile of a successful graduate from DD2 and all over the state, but we are not following those guidelines. They need to be world-class, knowledgeable in skills related to career, education, and development. Yet we have no higher education representative on our board. None. We have no one, no professional that can speak about workforce education and development and education which prepares our students for the long term. I'm a candidate, but first of all, I'm a citizen, and my husband and I moved to this area primarily because of those things. When you go to the polls, you need to look at the background of these folks. Do they have a proven record of knowing about these things, of managing budgets, large budgets, of managing people, of directing tasks, these types of things, so that we can move from number 12 to the top 5. That's what I'm shooting for, the top 5. Thank you very much.
Cynthia Powell.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Powell, and I did not know that Dr. Young would be speaking this evening. I too am a candidate on the ballot for DD2. I have done several things in the community. I work for the ATAX committee. I also work on the Dignity Project and the Councilman Ball, which awards scholarships to our seniors. I have been a resident of Somerville over 50 years. I have taught a total of 37 years. 30 of those are here in District 2, namely at DuBose and at Span. I don't have a degree in higher Post high school, but I do know about the children and what they're facing today and what they will be facing tomorrow. I do know that we must have the support of our county officers, our town officers. As I recall, I believe we are the largest employers of those that are here in District 2. We need you to help us solve many of the problems that we currently face. And some of those problems comes from many of our teachers actually becoming fed up with the lack of support, respect, and compensation. Now, how many of you on your current job would be satisfied with working 2 or 3 jobs and then coming and doing that regular job that you have to do? That's what our teachers, our educators are facing. We no longer have the bus drivers that we need. So consequently, we have our students going in later so that we can make those routes that we need to make. We don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a politician, but I am a 30+ year veteran of the educational system and understand what we face. I ask that you consider many things. 1, what kind of future do you want to leave for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? In order for us to meet whatever needs these children face, we need you, county council, town council, and the school district to work together. And I have several proposals that I'd like to put forth. I won't bore you with them tonight, but once I am on this DD2 board, I will be calling for you to come and assist us. It's not just a DD2 problem, it is a community problem. The health of our community has a lot to do with the health of our schools. And so we need you. We need our parents. We need our parents to do their job. We need our parents to help us help their children. So I'm very proud of the job that we've done in the past. We've always been number one. Unfortunately, we're not number one now because other towns around us, districts around us have the support of the businesses that they were able to attract. Now, I know that we aren't necessarily compensating teachers, of which I was one of those that worked 2 or more jobs. But we did have the respect of the community. We had the respect and appreciation of the community. That's mainly what teachers want. They want you to appreciate what they do. They want you to compensate them. And then they want you to help us help the children. So when you go to the poll, please consider it. My name is Cynthia Powell, and I am proud to be, even today, a substitute teacher in District 2. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Matthew Hirsch.
Mayor Waring, Council, thanks for the opportunity tonight to comment. I'm here to voice my concern. You've heard it a million times. You've mentioned it earlier. We've already had some folks talk about it, about the Doty, about Somerville tennis courts, specifically converting the Laurel courts into Doty courts. I am a team captain. I actually work with another team captain that's in the audience, Mr. Gary Scott, for the 3-0 team, specifically the men's 3-0 team, 18 and under. And just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what we're seeing on the courts because we're out there all the time. And I could speak for all of the teams that are out there. But in general, we see a lot of people using the courts. Generally, when we get there, the courts are full. If we have a league match, we have a league practice, we will have to kick people off the courts. And typically, if we do that, we tell them to go to Laurel or we'll tell them to go to Azalea. So we give them, a lot of times we'll give them directions on how to get over there so they know where they are. Generally, people don't know they're there, which may be one of the reasons why you may not see as many people on the Laurel courts. But in general, if we're there and we have to kick somebody off the court, we feel bad about it, but we do. We're there for practice, we're there for a match, and we will, tell them where to go so that they can continue playing. We see a lot of young people there, a variety of different people, older people, younger people. And so the courts are heavily used. With the growth that we've been talking about, taking a court away, taking 2 courts away is just not really a great option in our opinion. I think I stand for, how many people in the audience do we have here representing? So we've got quite a few here that are here tonight just to kind of voice our concern and to express that, we want to see a lot of us play pickleball too. We want to see pickleball grow. It sounds like the sponsor that's willing to donate money is willing to maybe, provide some additional funding to do the court correct. I know Eric Epstein has been working with you guys, or at least April, and to come up with plans as to where the courts could go. But I just wanted to convey that our issue is we don't want to see the courts go away because I use the court. I know a lot of people that still use the court. If I go up there for an league match, I will go over and look at Laurel. I will look at Azalea. Generally, Azalea is full. Sometimes Laurel's not. It just really depends on what time of day and whether it's the weekend, a Sunday night. It just is really dependent on that. So just from the bottom level, what I'm trying to convey is that there's definitely going to be a lot of growth. And I think the ability to turn, some of the space that we have in Somerville into pickleball and future tennis courts would be very much appreciated from the tennis community within Somerville. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tracy Hirsch.
Hi, so I'm a tennis player as well. You've heard most of what I'm going to say or what I would say, so I'm going to try not to bore you too much. But to answer why, Laurel is probably our last choice of places to go is because it was mentioned earlier, it needs to be resurfaced. It's not in the best shape. Why wouldn't you want to make those pickleball courts? Pickleball is very loud. It's a fun sport. People are laughing, people are social. It's great. But I think the neighborhood around Laurel would not be happy if you converted those to pickleball courts. I think probably you need to find a location, a specific location, and put the pickleball courts there, put enough so that they can have tournaments and they can really draw people to the town, and hopefully they'll, spend their money while they're in town, bring people from outside. And I'd like to see us be doing that with tennis as well, getting enough courts so that we can have tournaments more so in town. We can have playoffs. We always have to go to Mount Pleasant or West Ashley for playoffs because we don't have enough courts here in Somerville. And then people are going to lunch and drinks and spending their money there. Why aren't we bringing those people here to spend their money? Couple other things on why we play at Doty the most. Doty is the only place that has enough courts to handle the league play. So when we have a league match, we use 5 of the 6 courts at Doty. That leaves 1 court left. Not a lot for people. And we have pretty much league matches every night of the week. I think Friday nights is the only night we don't have a league match. We have them Saturday mornings, we have them Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons. So we use those courts. So I think this is a unique opportunity, and I'm hoping, I did not know that USTA was willing to kind of help us out financially as well, but between the donor that wants to see something happening with pickleball and USTA, couldn't we find a solution to make everybody happy, bring in the pickleball, bring in more tennis courts, get everybody out there playing in the nice weather and getting exercise? That's what I would like to see happen. I think it's a great town. We've got great facilities. Laurel's close to town, Azalea's close to town, Doty's close to town. They all bring people and they all bring people that want to spend money to our town. And, that's a win-win for us. And, you can always use more recreation when you have a lot more people come into town. So, anyway, please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Huff.
I guess you know what I'm here to talk about. I just came from the tennis courts to get here, so I apologize for the attire. I would normally not wear this to a town council meeting, but I'm passionate about tennis, and that's why I want to show up and speak. I've heard about the pickleball community trying to steal some of our precious tennis courts, and there are very few in the town of Somerville. Why is pickleball trying to take some tennis courts away from us? Well, I think I know why, but first I'm going to talk about my experience with tennis here in the town of Somerville. I came here right after college, moved to the town, and as soon as I was done unpacking, I looked for tennis courts, and that's almost 20 years ago. And all we had were 4 courts in this town, Laurel and Azalea. And I lobbied the council hard for many, many, many years, and finally, thanked the council in 2009, I believe, we finally got the Doty complex on board. And we can finally get leagues going in the town of Somerville, which are hugely popular, continue to be very popular to today. But still, we are lacking tennis courts in the town of Somerville, especially when you compare us to many of the other towns and cities across the state of South Carolina. In fact, I went to look these up and where our ranking in Somerville was, and all of these towns I'm about to name have fewer citizens than the town of Somerville, and they have way more tennis courts than we do. Florence, 30 courts. Sumter, 24 courts. Aiken, 16. James Island, 13. Myrtle Beach, 10. These are public courts. They have many more in the private sector, even private courts. And Somerville, here we are with 8. And 2 of those I don't even call courts, and I'm referring to Laurel because they've been in such bad condition for so long. I don't play there because it's slippery. It's just hard court to play on, play good tennis. And Doty is in bad condition, and thankfully it's getting resurfaced, so we can kind of move some tennis back to Doty. It needed to be resurfaced for a long, long time, so it's taking a little long to get that done, but we can finally have some good tennis again at Doty. I don't think I need to convince you guys, hopefully, about the sport of tennis and how great it is. It's had a long history in our country. You probably know some of the greats in tennis. Andre Agassi, John McEnroe, Billie Jean King, Serena Williams, Andy Roddick. I don't know a lot about pickleball. I don't even know any of the popular pickleball players, like who is the Andy Roddick of pickleball or the Michael Jordan. I have no idea. I do know it's kind of a new court, a new thing to our area. The first time I ran into a pickleball court was at the retirement community in Crestwin. And so it doesn't quite have that long tradition as tennis does. I think it started probably in the 1970s is what I read as in terms of when it got going. But I do know many tennis players play pickleball. A lot of them switch between the two. It is the easier sport, as he alluded to play. I would say maybe in the get-go of playing the sport. The courts look pretty similar. Same kind of concept. You hit a ball over the net. Ball's different though. She alluded to is a lot noisier to play the pickleball. It's a hard plastic ball. Okay. I kind of think of pickleball personally as kind of like wiffle ball to baseball. Does everybody remember wiffle ball? Kind of came and went. A little bit of a fad in my childhood days. Easier to play. Used a plastic ball. You didn't have to run as hard to play the wiffle ball. So it's a little bit like, is pickleball here to stay or not? We'll see. It's very new to the scene right now. But I do sympathize with the pickleball community. I know what it's like to love a sport in town, but live in a town that doesn't really have the adequate facilities to play. And I've continued to reach out to the Somerville leaders to add more tennis courts to meet our growing demand for tennis. But the response I get is that there's not enough money in the budget to build new courts, and we don't have the land to build them. So I'm guessing the pickleball community is getting the same response. And I assume that is why many pickleball players have decided to kind of lash out at the tennis community. They probably think their only hope of getting new courts is to steal the tennis courts. No money. How do we get courts? No land. How do we get courts? Let's take tennis courts. I guess is our only option. It's kind of where I feel like it's heading right now. In closing, I am for the town adding more pickleball courts to the inventory. However, we should not sacrifice the few tennis courts that this town has to do so. We need more tennis courts, and the town should include a new location for building tennis courts if they plan to pursue the Laurel Street option. There is another option. I think I've emailed you folks before about this, that would be cheaper than building and buying land to do tennis courts, and that would be to help out Somerville High School. Instead of building, it would be a good idea to take over ownership of the Somerville High School courts, and we could add 5 courts to our numbers. The school district is always lacking money to enhance and maintain that facility. The Somerville High School was using Doty courts for the past 2 years because they couldn't maintain their own courts. So the courts are only used part of the week at the high school in August and September, and in February and March by the team. The high schools keep their 5 courts locked when the teams are not using them. So having the town cover the cost of maintenance and liability so the public could use those courts would benefit everyone. So a great option. If we can't find land and money, let's help out the school. Let's put some of the town budget into keeping the high school courts maintained and add more tennis courts and find some areas for the pickleball courts as well. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mayor, I just have one more to be read into the record because she could not attend. This is from Beth Ann Armstrong. As a local tennis captain and avid player of a sport growing in popularity and diversity across multiple demographic measures, and as a resident taxpayer who envisions the inclusive, community building, healthy lifestyle promoting, value adding, and even revenue generating role that tennis could play in Somerville, I adamantly oppose the usurping of the Laurel Street tennis courts for pickleball use and respectfully request the council pursue a path that builds capacity instead reducing resources. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, next thing on the agenda is executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter relating to 319 North Cedar Street and to receive legal advice on contractual matters related to the sale of town-owned property on the Woodlands tract, the cottage and barn.
I hear a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry. Go into executive session.